what Doorify wants to do is we want to point to people like UNC Keenan Flagler and point to people like the Urban Land Institute that are talking about smart growth policies. And we want to, along with the National Association of Realtors, which has a significant investment in this, we want people to know that we're providing data to those organizations trying to get to a place where we can make smart land use decisions.
Hi, everyone. Here is another episode of Doorify's podcast. Welcome back. We are joined by Matt Fowler today. Have you ever wondered what the Housing Affordability Index actually means? Well, we have Matt Fowler breaking it all down for us, what it is, how it's changed over time, and why it's just such a useful tool for understanding our market. So, thank you, Matt, for coming on and talking to us about this. Let's just dive right in. So we recently posted a blog post that highlights Doorify's Affordability Index. Can you elaborate on what specific actions Doorify is taking to address the affordability challenges faced by potential homeowners in and around the Triangle?
Yeah. Hey, Andrea, this is such a hot topic. You know, we do a quarterly podcast with the Keenan Flagler School at UNC Business School. And there's also a blog post out there at DorifyMLS.com from Eric, one of the professors over at UNC. And this is really his field of study. And what we do at Doorify is we just measure everything. So we have 2 million home sales going back to the mid 90s, including $20 billion worth of real estate sales that just came through the Doorify network just last year. And what we do is we don't, build houses or sell houses. Doorify is a broker cooperative made up of about 3,000 essentially, real estate brokerages in the Triangle. And we help them facilitate the listing and then the recording of the sale and tracking that data that we share with policymakers and leaders. And we used to publish the Doorify, used to be the Triangle Affordability Index, for all 16 counties. And as you can see, like one number for all 16 counties. And as you can see on the blog post, we now publish it for each county with its own number. Wake County is currently at 74 when we published the last one. And what that means is that the housing index is made up of three legs to a stool. And it means it's in Wake County for the month of December. I guess this is for all last year. It's the average homeowner had 74% of the income necessary to buy a median priced house. So it's median income, median home price, and the mortgage rates. So that's the three variables in the formula. And before about 2022, right after COVID, the index had never been below 100, which is really the most interesting part of this, I think. When you zoom out 20 years, the index going back as long as we have data, had never been below 100. And that means that median income people have never found the median income home hard to buy until 4 years ago. And since then, it's really gone down dramatically and then fluctuated around 70. So it's been as low as 68. Now it's up to 74 in Wake County. And we're knocking around 70. We're not headed back up to 100. For that to happen, income would need to go up and prices and rates would need to remain stable, or one of those has to change in order for the index to get better.
So what would you say when you're looking at this are the two to three key metrics that are most crucial for understanding kind of the state of where we are?
I think you have to start with supply. So if there aren't enough houses on the market to go around for people, they become expensive. So, income, median household income is going to do what it does. And, a regional housing index can't do anything about that. Government can't do a lot about people's income. You're right. So we also have mortgage rates as another leg of that stool. So mortgage rates are going to have to come down. All the intelligence that we have looking forward shows that they're not going to come down dramatically. We don't want them to come down to the stimulative rates that we saw during COVID, because that was done by the central bank in order to stimulate the economy after a horrendous global shock of the shutdown. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, so we won't have to have those rates again. That means they're not going to go below probably 6 They may fluctuate into the upper five, say 5.5 to 7.5, looking out the next 24 to 48 months. No one has a crystal ball that works, but no one that I talk to in economics expects those rates to trend outside of that range.
You mentioned that inventory is slowly increasing. What factors do you think contribute to this slow growth, and what impacts do you foresee on the market in the short and long term?
Yeah, that's such an important topic, Andrea. You know, you hear people in the media talking about zoning committee meetings and announcing these new developments in Garner and in Johnston County and in Chatham. The building regulations, zoning regulations, and the building codes vary across the 16 county coverage area that where we operate, and it's easier to build in some places than others. And the supply is clearly going to be met, as it always is, by an intensive building that's happening. Drive down the road, you see it. What Doorify wants to do is we want to point to people like UNC Keenan Flagler and point to people like the Urban Land Institute that are talking about smart growth policies. And we want to, along with the National Association of Realtors, which has a significant investment in this, we want people to know that we're providing data to those organizations trying to get to a place where we can make smart land use decisions. We're going to have more condos. We're going to have more affordable houses. We're going to have more upper end houses. You know, the median price in Chatham County is now in the 600s. So that might be affordable for some people, but it's clearly not for, you know, for people looking in the 200s. And there needs to be a lot more of those. And we want to put them in places that are smart to put them based on, you know, utilities, schools, transportation. That's a super complicated thing to do across an uneven web of judicial regulations across this 16 county area. So we're one of the only agencies that goes across the whole place, that we're active in all 16 counties. We have subscribers in every little town, and they're in these zoning committee meetings, and we're seeking to empower them with all the data that we have to go into their local communities, our subscribers, the real estate brokers that are small businesses and you see at the grocery store. They have the power of our technology behind them. And we know what the truth about demand and supply really is on a every day, every hour basis. And what we're trying to do is share that information with decision makers so we can live in a better tribe.
So how does the Triangle housing market compare to other similar markets in the US, and what can we learn from those competitors?
Well, so how does it compare first? We are benefiting from really significant inbound migration. Eric, in his article at UNC, talks
Yep.
about that quite a bit. And we're North Carolina, specifically the Triangle area and Eastern North Carolina, are some of the highest rates of inbound migration, people moving here to work remote or just to work here or to be with closer to family. North Carolina is well positioned in the job market and geographically, and that's fueling a lot of our growth. So even in a down economy, if we were to have one in the next cycle or three, North Carolina is better suited, better situated than many economies. You think about Cincinnati, Las Vegas, places where there are significant percentage of excess inventory in the past. There's been a lot of building there. There hasn't been a lot of building in North Carolina for a lot of different reasons, mostly regulatory. So I think we're looking to grow both our subscribers. We think the summer is going to be a high watermark for price, certainly. If you're thinking about selling your house, I think it's a pretty good time. If you're thinking about buying, it's just always expensive to wait. What's the best time to plant a tree
Right.
is always 40 years ago or today, if you haven't done that. It's a steady stair steps up. So I know, Andrew, you bought a house and you've benefited from that equity creation that you see happening. My daughter has, in a really, dramatic way. You buy a house, you sit on the couch watching television, and all of a sudden you've got a lot more money when you get your house appraised. And I think that's just amazing. And we want that for everybody,
Right.
for all Americans. That's the point of housing accessibility and affordability, is trying to advocate for more development, but in the right way. And then you said, what can we learn from other places? I think if you drive through Atlanta, or throw some shade at Charlotte, you drive through Charlotte, I don't want to live there. It's sprawl like crazy. And Charlotte kind of ate the little towns that it grew into. Atlanta did too. You think about Paces and Roswell, little towns that used to be kind of have a quaint little downtown, and they were their own destination, and they're kind of not so much anymore. That's what I think about the Triangle. We have these really special little county courthouses. There's 16 of them, surrounded by little shops, and there's other little towns around that have that small town way of life, but you're still 12 minutes from RDU. And I think we want to preserve that. And
Yeah.
we want people that work in our stores and service industries not have to drive 80 miles to get to, a nice place to live for them and their families. That has to be created. I guess it grows organically sometimes, but it's really incentivized and encouraged by the regulations that we have. And I'm not saying remove regulations. As a radical libertarian economist I just spoke to at a conference was saying, like, we have these environmental regulations. The stairwells have to be certain size in order to protect people from fire. And that's not I don't see that as a, horrible government intrusion into construction. I consider that, why the place doesn't look like I'll throw more shade at someplace like Mexico City, or, where the building regulations don't look like ours. We don't want our cities, I think, to look like the worst places. So that's my answer. We can look and see how it's been other places. And I think, what's going to happen is the different communities are going to adopt regulations that will be more or less successful going forward. I think we should keep an eye on the ones that are doing well. I think Durham's ADU policy, for example, is particularly successful, and we need to repeat that. We need to tell Chapel Hill and Garner that these policies worked, and they did allow people to build affordable housing in the urban core or in the downtown area, and we should try to do more of that maybe. I think it's Doorify's role to maybe amplify the things that are working and say that houses that have the word greenway in them sell for more than houses that don't, because people value greenways. That's information that I think we have and we can share with people building houses and renovating houses. And maybe we can make data-driven decisions that would let us, build a better Raleigh or build a better Chapel Hill.
Well, that leads me to my next question. How does Doorify plan to leverage its engineering level data analysis to further empower our real estate professionals in navigating this market? Like, are there any new tools or resources being developed? Because I think knowledge is power, right? And that's what we always want to do at Doorify, to help our, real estate professionals make the best decisions while navigating the market. So how can we empower and leverage this to help them?
Yeah, I guess most of our focus, Andrea, and you and I work on this every day, but most of our focus is on the accuracy and completeness of the data, and those are two different things. And we're about to launch a new product, a new process, as well as a new product that is going to use. It's already kind of being tested, and it's up and running in Atlanta. It looks like it's going to work for us, but it uses AI to study the images, the video, or the photographs that you've taken, as well as a collection of databases that we have access to across the internet. You can think of it as like the Carfax of houses. We have access to, and we've built a lot of this ourselves. So when somebody, lists 104 Oak Street, they put that into our database, and we give them, like, they know a lot about it. The realtor's been through the house, but we add things that they may not know about it and things that may not be immediately discoverable by the realtor. So we have a database that tells us if fiber is hot at that house, not if it's available in the zip code, but if it's turned on at that, like in that house, fiber internet. We know if the property is eligible for down payment assistance for people who may income qualify into a program that would give them $10,000 to $16,000 for their down payment as a grant. Like, if you're a home buyer and you don't know that, the house you're looking at is actually $16,000 cheaper for you if you knew about this program. So we notify the realtors about this. We notify the buyers about this when they're just shopping at DoorifyMLS.com. We also clean the data, and from the photos, we fill out the form So the form has the things on it that buyers can search for, like internet yes, no, or fiber yes, no, or green building score that says this house is certified to be inexpensive to own because of its green building score. It doesn't have some super old expensive heating thing to use. And you don't need to know about all that, even as the buyer or the realtor. We'll help notify you about that when you create the listing. And then we go out and compare it to all the other properties that we have. Again, we've got this 2 million record database that we're now using AI to study and make suggestions to the realtors. So when you load listings into our system, we can tell you about that greenway in the remarks. We can tell you about the property in a more complete way. We can also tell you about how that property is going or how the transaction may work out based on what we're seeing in the marketplace, the clicks that we see online, the number of times that property's been emailed to someone to that's an indication of demand, whether the property has multiple showings scheduled or if there are multiple offers open on that property. All those things are in our data set. And as we learn through those things, this is something that we can share back with the subscribers as they put listings in to further optimize how that works. If you used Etsy or sold on Amazon or eBay, they have these very simple techniques built into the process, and they're just kind of coming to the MLS world. But you'll start to see that happen. In data science, it's called data amplification, where you use this consumer data to talk back to the creation of the data, and it creates that loop. Adds a lot of value.
All right. Well, kind of closing out here, looking beyond 2024, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges you see for the Triangle housing market, and how does Doorify preparing for them?
Yeah, it's finding a place to put affordable housing, finding developers who want to invest in building, units under 300 in our markets, occasionally under 200 if it makes sense, and doing that putting it in a place where people, can still get to work and get to schools and it's walkable, putting it in a place where the local communities will accept and include that into the fabric of the community is something we want to advocate for. It's about development, smart development, but development. The development's going to happen, but we'd like to have it create a thoughtful result, not a, completely organic result. I think we've all been in places where the building requirements for just the drugstores and gas stations, are different and they match the local environment more. Thinking of places like Park City and Asheville to some extent, right? They've had some regulations up there that I think have maintained the created value in the community. I mentioned Durham too is doing better with first-time home buyers than some other places because of that ADU requirement. So it's about supply. I think the mortgage rates are going to stay roughly where they are. I think income will probably inch up next year in 25, but it's the supply that's constrained by regulation, constrained by the rates, constrained by land cost and availability. So those are things that we just want to watch as time goes on, and maybe watch DorifyMLS.com for stories that come from UNC and other guest bloggers and from us, hopefully shining a light on the success stories that are providing this affordable housing in the Triangle. We'll keep trying to tell that story.
Well, understanding the Housing Affordability Index is honestly key to navigating this market. We know it's ever changing, and we encourage all of you to explore the data further, stay informed about these important trends. Thank you, Matt Fowler, for sharing your expertise on Housing Affordability Index. We appreciate your insights and your valuable information that you provided. Be sure to subscribe, like, and give us, your feedback and thoughts on this podcast. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Andrea.